Welcome back. I'm Jill with the CarefreeKitchen.com, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really easy roasted marinara sauce using fresh tomatoes. So if your garden is exploding with tomatoes and you're wondering what to do with them, I've got a solution for you. To get started, here are the ingredients that you're going to need for your roasted marinara sauce. Okay, these are very simple ingredients, but it's all about the method. So hold on, watch to the end, and I'll show you just how to do it. Okay, so here are my tomatoes, and as you can see, these are Roma tomatoes, which they have less juice in them than other tomatoes. However, you can use the other tomatoes just fine, and I'll show you what to do so that you have some really thick spaghetti sauce here. So I've got tomatoes, and then I'm going to use a few onions. You can use white onions or yellow onions here, and then I've got some olive oil. I'm going to use a pinch of baking soda. It makes all the difference in your marinara sauce. I have some garlic. I'm going to be using a little splash of balsamic vinegar, a couple bay leaves, some onion powder, and then with fresh basil. And you can also substitute this for just normal basil, like dried basil that you have, but if you have some fresh basil, use that because it is amazing. And then we just have some pepper, a little bit of sugar. We're going to be using just like a tablespoon of sugar, just a little bit, and then some salt too. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is turn your oven on, and we're going to go all the way to 400 degrees for this because we're going to roast it. Okay, so to get your tomatoes ready, I am actually just going to cut off the little end. I don't want the stem in there. And then if you want, you can just squeeze your tomatoes, and this will squeeze a lot of the seeds out, which don't do anything for your sauce. And then also it squeezes the excess juice out of your tomatoes. And then you will just cut your tomatoes in half, and then we'll put them on a baking sheet. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna cut off the little end here, and then squeeze it into my bowl to get out the excess juice, because we don't want it to be watery, we want it to be really thick and really hearty. So go ahead, and you're actually gonna fill up like 2 of these big cookie sheets, and that will make a nice big pot of marinara sauce. All right, spread them out on your cookie sheet a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to drizzle them a little bit with some olive oil, and then just salt them a little bit here. Okay, I've got my tomatoes all ready, and now we're gonna put them in a preheated 400-degree oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, and while those tomatoes are roasting, I'm going to caramelize some onions, and this is really the secret to some great marinara sauce, is caramelized onions, because it makes the sauce so thick and rich and also so sweet. Purple onions would work too for the flavor, but they tend to turn it kind of a funky color, so I usually try and stick with yellow or white onions when doing marinara sauce. And we want these just pretty finely chopped. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do this for all of my onions. I'm just gonna add all of my diced onions here to my pot. And then I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, maybe 4. And now I will just cook these up until they're soft and tender, and then golden. We want them to be a golden brown so that they add a ton of flavor and sweetness to our marinara sauce. And to caramelize onions, it takes probably 15 to 20 minutes. And the stages your onions are going to go through, first they're pretty white, and then they turn kind of translucent here, and then they're going to turn a little bit light brown around the edges, and then they'll turn a deep golden brown. Okay, and then to work on the rest of the sauce while those onions are caramelizing, I'm actually going to just cut off just the leaves of this basil, just like this, and then I'll stack it on top of each other. And then I'll just use a little knife and cut it up pretty little, and this basil is going to give your marinara sauce just a huge punch of flavor. It is so good when you use fresh basil in marinara sauce. And you're going to want about 1/4 of a cup of fresh basil, so maybe I'll do just a little bit more than that. And you can certainly add a little bit more basil into here too, if you really like fresh basil. Okay, so I'm just gonna put all of that into this bowl right here, and then I will add the rest of my ingredients to this bowl. Okay, and then we're gonna add about a tablespoon of sugar. and then probably just about a half a teaspoon of salt and about a quarter teaspoon of pepper. And we're going to add just a pinch of baking soda. And that just cuts back on the acidity in the marinara sauce. Okay, here are my roasted tomatoes. And as you can see, there's little bits of them that are charred and they're nice and cooked. They look perfect. And actually this is my second batch of this sauce this week. And my last one didn't have as many Roma tomatoes, so there was a lot more liquid in here, but regardless of what kind of tomatoes you use, I'll show you next what to do. Okay, and then here's my onions, and as you can see, there's a little bit of golden brown on the bottom there for me, so that's good. We're getting really close with those, so we'll let those go just a couple more minutes. For this next step, you can use a blender or an immersion blender, the kind that you put in the pot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up these tomatoes, and any juices I'll just leave in the pan. That's great. So I'm going to put all of these into my blender here, and it'll probably take a couple batches. And then the rest of this tomato juice here at the bottom of your pan, you can just discard that because it's not really going to add a lot of flavor to your marinara sauce. And now we've got a little bit of color on our onions here. I'm going to add 3 or 4 tablespoons of garlic, and we'll just continue to cook this for a couple more minutes until the garlic is all the way cooked too. Alright, here are the caramelized onions, and we're just going to go ahead and add those to the blender as well, and then we're going to blend it all up so it's nice and smooth. Okay, and we want to leave all the little bits of the onions in there, the little caramelization at the bottom. And that is also going to give our marinara sauce a ton of flavor. So, there we go. Alright, now we're just going to turn this on low while we do the rest of the tomatoes, and then we will come back to this. Okay, and now for the second half of the tomatoes. Alright, to finish this off, I'm just going to add about a tablespoon of sugar, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper, a little bit more onion powder. I'm going to add my chopped basil leaves, right there, and then also a couple bay leaves. And we'll fish these out at the end, right before we're done with it. I'm also going to add a couple teaspoons of balsamic vinegar. There we go. And about 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. And we'll just let this simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. And then we'll taste it and salt it if it needs it. Okay, so this sauce is super, super thick and delicious. If you need to add a little bit of salt, go ahead and do that. I think I need about a teaspoon of salt. And if it just doesn't have quite that like tang that you like, you might need to add just a little bit of garlic powder would work in this. Onion powder would work if it doesn't have enough flavor, but first try the salt because that's probably what it is. Alright, here is my roasted marinara sauce recipe made with fresh tomatoes. It does take a little bit of time, but it's super easy to make and turns out great every time. I know that there's so many places that are sold out of jars and they're sold out of lids, so this is a really easy recipe and it freezes beautifully, and you can use it on pizza, you can use it on spaghetti, you can use it as a dipping sauce, so it has all kinds of uses. It's super easy to make and it freezes great. Okay, so if you're wanting to freeze this later, this is what I like to do. You can put it in like a Ziploc bag and fill it up with your sauce and then lay it flat while it cools, and then put it in the freezer flat so it stays flat. But I like to just scoop it into a container. You can do like different sizes of containers. Like this I might save for like a pizza sauce, and then if I put it in a container this size, it might be for like a spaghetti night at our house. So I'll just put it in whatever size of container, cool on the counter like this, and then when it's room temperature, you can go ahead and put it in the freezer and seal it up. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Carefree Kitchen. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow me on social media, and I will share with you all kinds of fun and easy recipes the entire family will love. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.